In A Man of Awesome Power by Naguib Mahfouz, we look at the story from certain angles. The first one is Tayyib's person before he gets the awesome power. Tayyib is described as a good person, and then when he gets the power, he changes. So we see the lesson that power may corrupt, or power may bring out the real character of a person. So whenever a student is given a question to show how power corrupts, they must show, before he had the power, the evidence in the text, and then describe how he changes when he gets the power. For example, we're told that Tayyib al-Mahdi believed that his mission in this world had come to an end. Deeply relaxed with only minor aches and pains, he would mutter to himself in contentment, "All praise to God, Lord of the worlds." He had generous health insurance and a more than adequate pension. He lived in an apartment that he owned in Nasser City, which he won as a reward for many years of service abroad. His 4 daughters had each been married. He spent his evenings with his wife, watching television, reading the newspaper, and listening to the radio channel devoted to the Quran. This is a good man. We are also told that at the same time he felt infused with physical energy, filled with confidence, inspiration, and joy. And why not? He was a good man. His sins were forgivable ones, pious and observant. He was a lover of virtue, who lived his life, despite his modest status, as though he bore on his shoulders the worries of the world and of people everywhere. Again, we can see that this is a good person. We're also told that he recalled his benevolent dreams for his country and the planet. He had some very good thoughts and dreams, not just for his country, but also for the whole planet. At some point, even after he got the power, the author tells us that he knew, or he reflected, whoever is granted a power like mine must use it only for good. Therefore, for each point, the student must try to demonstrate that Tayyib was a good man initially, or at least portrayed the qualities of a good person, with a humane heart, benevolent dreams, lofty goals, and he was unselfish. He didn't think about himself. He thought about others and what he could do for them. But then when he gets the power, and you see this is almost absolute power, from this moment onward, and for as long as God wills, you shall have the power to tell something be, and it will be. Do with it what you please. That is where problems begin. He becomes selfish, resentful, and most of the time we see him just punishing people rather than trying to reform situations. Now, again, for each point, the student should try to tell us what Tayyib does and give specific textual illustrations to show that he misuses the power, especially how he reacts. Look at the taxi incident when he hailed the taxi and the driver waved his hand at him in haughty refusal and speeds on his way without paying him further mind. Let us look at the choice of words. Now that it was hardly the first time such a thing had happened, but now that Tayyib has power, his irritation was greater than in the past, which means the power now had changed him. Look at what he considers. He considers making the driver suffer an accident. We're told, as he said to himself, his anger nonetheless got the better of him. Anger. So we've seen irritation and we've seen anger. Those words are very vital when a student is trying to build a point using this particular episode. Then he stared at the tires and both of them, the rear wheels, and both of them exploded suddenly like a bomb. Let us also bring out the driver's frustration when he drums his palms together in frustration, glancing back and forth at the shattered tires. He even exclaims, "Both at one time?" Now, the student should bring out Tayyib's reaction. Look at what Tayyib does. He felt he had taught the man a needed lesson. He walked by the man, casting him a meaningful look. and asking, "Can I be of any help?" But his unknowing pupil glared at him, resentful and enraged. Now, those specific textual illustrations are very important when the student is trying to bring out the fact that power changed Tayyib al-Mahdi. I want to take you to another episode. In this episode, where he compels Suleiman Bey al-Hamalawi to pay the taxes. Now, it may appear like justice, but then there is law, and there should be order, and there should be some investigation, and there should be evidence. Although Suleiman is portrayed as a corrupt person, a fat cat who has refused to pay taxes. But then look at the method and look at Tayyib's reaction and his thoughts. He tells Suleiman, "Go straight to the tax prosecutor's office to repent and say you are sorry and pay up the millions of pounds you owe." That is all the thing. We move on when the author tells us, Tayyib rubbed his hands with glee. He was delighted. The pleasure of seeing Suleiman suffer. Now, is it reforms, or does he enjoy the pain of other people? Is that good use of power, or is there some selfishness and self-centeredness? Then we are also told tomorrow his victim will be the talk of the newspapers, which will make him an example of him to awaken people's conscience. And when Suleiman returns to his villa, he will wonder what had befallen him, beating his head against the wall in despair. Tayyib is delighted when he sees this person in despair, suffering, and in public shame. That is not reform. That is bad use of power. Now, look at the next episode that is almost juxtaposed with this one, where he lusts over the gorgeous woman at the zoo, the garden. He uses his power for his own personal pleasure. Then he forgets his faith. He forgets his dreams. He forgets his plans. He engages himself in a lustful. He engages himself in lust, and then he still punishes other people for their mistakes. Now you see the hypocrisy. And that is why, as much as Suleiman was guilty, the method of punishment, the thought process behind it was not about reform. It was about the delight and the pleasure of having power and being able to control other people at will. That can also be said about the man on the bus that slaps the woman. The amount of punishment meted out was way greater than the misdemeanor or the mistake. Because the people on the bus said he deserved it. But for what? For bad manners and cheekiness. But the severe cramps that made him unable to even move, and he was moaning and screaming in pain until an ambulance had to come and fetch him. And then Tayyib observed all this with satisfaction, certain that he had done his duty in the best manner possible. Is that the best manner possible? It's like punishing a student. Even if the student is wrong, but the way you punish them, or a child, the way you punish them, you can't be delighted by making the learner suffer more than they deserve. The same can be said about the way he tries to censor the media and anyone who displaces him, and even trying to change the whole world and appearing godlike instead of consulting. So we can see from the choices that Tayyib has made, he's not a very wise person, and therefore even having the power to now control the whole world, and he wants to control the whole country, you know, talking about the layers of official bureaucracy, centers of production and services, the People's Assembly, the prisons, commercial markets, the press, political parties, schools and universities. From his actions, he may not be the best person for such a job. And eventually, of course, he loses his power because of his imprudence. Bleeding is pointless, distress is useless, regret has no effect, and an awesome sadness will haunt Tayyib al-Mahdi until his death. Therefore, each point should bring out Tayyib before he had the power, then describe each action in detail, and then the student should not forget the reaction, Tayyib's reaction, each time he uses or misuses his awesome power. Don't forget to follow me on all social media platforms at Wafula Wekati. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you find this helpful, share with your friends. Thank you very much.